Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, guys. How are you guys doing wherever you are? How are you guys doing out there? Happy Christmas Eve to each and every one of you. Happy Christmas Eve. Good to see each and every one of you guys. We could not ask for more. We're happy that you guys are here with us. We are tremendously happy about that. How are you guys doing and where are you guys joining us from today? Let us know where you guys are joining us from. We're always so privileged to have you guys. Whether it's one or it's two of you guys, we're still happy to be out here with you. And we're so happy to be sharing this very special day with you. It's Christmas Eve around the world, and Christmas is such a very special time. And so we love to have a very special people with us. Good to see you, Laverne Lincott and Diane Griffzandi, Eileen Griffith, Norton Innes, Donald David. Let us know where you guys are joining us from. Which part of the world you guys are joining our international podcast. Folks, it's below the belt. Who vex lose? Who vex? Thanks for joining our podcast. Guys, believe it or not, this is our 20th episode. We are episode 20 already. It is Friday, December 24th. Tomorrow is Christmas. And today it is a Hughes Christmas Eve. We are privileged to have joining us the one and only attorney at law, Nigel Hughes, and we have communications specialist and member of parliament, Catherine Hughes, and we are so Catherine Hughes. We're so privileged to have these guys with us. Guys, how is the weather where you are? Winston Henry's joining us from Isla Penitence. Margaret Nelson joining us from South Carolina. Good to have Margaret up in the Hizza. Daryl Cambridge, we see you, Daryl. Diane Graves Zandy, we see you as well in politics. Dorette David and Laverne Lincott is still here. Laverne is joining us from Atlanta, Georgia. Good to have you. We have Claire, Alexis Chomley. Richmond is with us too. We have Alexis Arthur. We have Sukchan Sudhari. We have Caroline. Is it Hinton with us? We have Beatrice Selby is joining us from Queens, New York. We have a lot of folks from around the world. Elizabeth Norine is on with us as well, joining us from South Carolina, Spartanburg, South Carolina. Maureen Coppin Williams is here as well. And she's joining us from Seattle. She says it's raining in Seattle. Sleepless in Seattle, I would hazard too. Welcome, guys. Welcome to each and every one of you here in the national capital city of Georgetown. It is 29 degrees according to weather.com. Folks, we don't worry with them people here. When they tell me the sun is rain, when it's a rainy sun, we don't bother with them. We go to weather.com and they say it's 29 degrees outside. And they say this afternoon is a 17% chance that it's going to be rain. There's going to be rain. Guys, we really hope that your Christmas preparations are coming well. And we really hope that you guys aren't overdoing it. Most persons that we talk to, they're saying to save some stuff for the new year, save some money for the new year. Do not go all out for the new year. Guys, let us know if you're receiving us loud and clear. We don't want a repeat of yesterday by any means. And as you come on, share the podcast. Also, we want to see those emojis. We love to see those emojis. Let us know how you guys are receiving us at your end. Hundreds of you have already joined the podcast. We want to see those emojis. We want to see those shares as well, guys. We want as many persons to benefit from this discussion as possible. We are on Twitter. We are on YouTube. We are on Facebook. Folks, share the live stream wherever you are. And do you know, folks, that you can watch us directly on WhatsApp? If you share the link with somebody on WhatsApp, they can watch us right on the app without coming to Facebook or to YouTube. Brenda Braffett, good to see you out there, Brenda. Good to see you. Season greetings to you as well. I see Cheryl Wharton is here, joining us from Queens, New York. Beatrice Selby says she's hearing us loud and clear. Richard Fordyce, Andrew Cuthbert, politics. Good to see all you fantastic folks. Wilma Grant is joining us from Brooklyn. A lot of Guyanese there in Brooklyn. Folks, let the remittances flow for the new year. No, let the remittances flow. Great to have each and every one of you guys. It's a Hughes Christmas Eve, and we are privileged again to have Mr. and Mrs. Hughes with us. This is the attorney at law, Mr. Nigel Hughes, and we also have his darling, beautiful wife, Catherine Hughes, is joining us as well. She's a communications specialist, and she's also a member of parliament, one of my colleagues in the house. We are so happy and privileged to have both of them with us on Christmas Eve. What better can we ask? You know, they could have been somewhere around the world, but they're with us this Christmas Eve, and we're privileged to have them. Mr. and Mrs. Hughes, we welcome you to the podcast Below the Belt. Welcome, guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Folks, let's give them a welcome. Give them a sharing welcome. Give them an emoji welcome. Welcome, guys.
Karen, fantastic to be in your program. I just want to take the opportunity, first of all, to thank you for actually inviting us to join your program and to say to the many listeners that you have the very best for the season. Of course, it's important that we all remain safe and we all hope that the season will continue to have goodwill and that next year will be better.
Fantastic. Guys out there, let us know if you're hearing our guests loud and clear as well, so we know that we're on the right track. Kathy, jump right in. Go right ahead.
Hi, Sharad. Hi, Guyana. Hi to everyone. I'm hoping that you're hearing me, Sharad.
I'm hearing you loud and clear, Kathy. Loud and clear.
Wonderful. Well, this is like you said, another Christmas Eve. I send special messages to everyone, especially Guyanese all over the world. Be happy, be safe, and focus on your family today and tomorrow and always.
Guys, I don't know, but I want my head swell a little bit. So tell us whether this is the first program you have sat down on as Mr. and Mrs. Hughes. I'm thinking it's the first. Tell me if it's the first. Tell
Actually,
me, tell me, tell me.
Actually, Sharon,
No?
that is so true because both Nigel and I do
All
programs,
the time.
independently. But this is the first time I think we have sat down together. So
Hmm.
it should be interesting. It should be interesting.
I hope it is. So let's start with how you guys are prepping for Christmas. Are you guys scaling down? You were doing things as per normal. How are you guys getting Christmas started? How, I mean, it's tomorrow, really and truly, but how has it been?
Well, I always like to say that from a woman's perspective, it's slightly different, you know? So, just about finished now with the battling of the presents and have been able to give it out to close family and friends.
Hmm.
And some of the last minute preparations for the kitchen, I will be doing a little later on.
Hmm.
And it's a quieter Christmas. We're spending it with siblings,
Hmm.
small groups, of course, because of COVID and Omicron and all the other madness
Hmm.
happening.
Delta and
But
so.
we're just so happy to be blessed to have survived another year. I think everybody knows in these crazy times, there are many persons that have lost close ones. So it's a hard Christmas for quite a few people, but we are very blessed that we have emerged unscathed. So we give thanks. Giving thanks is an important thing.
Last year I got a beautiful gift from the youth, a lovely ring light. It was such a functional gift because of the social media programs that I do. It came at just the right time as well. A lovely, beautiful ring light. So Kathy says that she give gifts to close friends and family. So I think I'm somewhere there. Just telling y'all. Just telling y'all. I know people. I
Well,
know people. I
and
know.
what he's telling you is he didn't get a gift from me yet.
That too. But I know the
But
season not
but
finished, so anything could happen.
Sherrod, let me tell you,
Uh-huh.
I have been so proud. We started off doing our live updates, as you
Oh
will recall.
yes, yes.
People may not know, but we put our heads together and we said that Guyanese everywhere in the world needed to have the truth about what was transpiring at the end of the election and in the
Mm-hmm.
recount process. And we put our heads together and we came up with our live updates that was viewed by thousands. And I gave you that ring light, Sharad, because you have done amazing work. You continue to be of service to us on the information side. And you know that I will support and help you however I can. And I think many people say thank you to you today for the last, for In the Ring and now these podcasts, because everybody has a right to at least be informed and
Yeah.
then leave it to people to make their own decisions
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
have their own positions. But we should be able to at least get independent information, and if not, two different perspectives of the same issue. It makes us better people.
Yeah, thank you for those kind words. We also have our website now, Credible Sources, and the address for that is Credible Sources. Let me just make a quick plug: Credible Sources crediblesourcesgy.com. And so we have the three things that we're managing now, with some other things on the horizon. But we're so grateful for your kindness, Kathy. So grateful for that.
Is the truth.
I like that. It's the truth. So Nigel, when Kathy's in the kitchen, she's stressed. She's in the kitchen. She's stressed. Rather, she's in the kitchen. She's getting the stuff prep for Christmas and so on. What are you doing? What music are you playing? I know you love Miles Davis. So what music is filtering through this lovely, beautiful home that you guys have? What are you doing?
Um, I don't know if Kathy shared. We're actually not in Guyana at the moment. But I am. Yes, I'm not. Unfortunately, I don't have a Miles Davis Christmas album. But I am, when I do get the opportunity to listen to music, I'm listening to, I would say, jazz improvisations of Christmas themes. So
Hmm.
that's what I would be doing.
Hmm. Fantastic. You don't know this, Nigel, but you introduced me to My Man's Gone by Miles Davis. And sometimes when I'm driving home, because I saw you put it
Oh,
up
that
once on
is a
social media, I
fabulous
yeah,
piece.
I listen to it when I've had a hard day and I'm driving home. I put that in and it soothes all my troubles away. All of, so where are you
Oh,
guys this
excellent.
Christmas? Let me get to your business now. You said you guys are not in Guyana. And we're if you don't mind
I'll let
sharing
Kathy tell you where we are.
that.
We
Y'all about.
we are in a sunny, warm place
Hmm.
with my sister, one of my sisters,
Hmm.
and my beautiful niece and nephew,
Fantastic.
Mason and
Yep. Yep.
Michaela,
Yeah.
and Lena and Nikki, and we have another sibling that's going to be passing through after the Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's. So it really is a lovely time just to wake up in the morning, have a lazy breakfast, to chat. We can play some games tomorrow. Listen to music. You talk about music. Let me tell you, the first thing that came on this morning was Christmas Jollies by Sal Soul.
Hmm. Hmm.
And my sister Melina was reminiscing that we would be sleeping as teenagers, trying to sleep late into the morning because we came in 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning from partying somewhere. And my mom would put on the Christmas jollies and blast it out. And that was the hint to get out of your bed. And we walk down the steps to the kitchen,
This
and
working
she
will do
would be
itself.
fussing. Yes, she would be fussing in the kitchen, garlic to chop up, this the thing, where the time, those kinds of things. So
Curtains
it
to
was
put
lovely
up.
this morning. Yeah, it was lovely this morning to have Melina put on the Christmas jollies and listen to Sal Soul. Just the traditions, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And what a year it has been. We really need a time to detox and decompress and all of that. And Christmas is such a beautiful time to do so with family. And to know that you guys are with family, that's really awesome. But as I said, it's been such a year, and we know that, both yourself, Kathy, and Nigel, you've been in front of so much at the parliamentary end, the opposition end. Nigel has been in front of some very high profile cases. And even while juggling all of that, remodeling the office. I mean, you've set a standard there, Nigel, with that office there. Quite a standard. And opening new offices too. I see you did something wonderful in Linden. You've taken Hughes Fields and Stobies, an office. What do you call that? A chamber in Linden?
We've actually opened an office. It's both legal, and we also plan to do commercial work there, as in non-legal commercial work. So yeah, Linden, as you know, is very close to my heart, and I think that they've got a lot of potential. Is always a bad word. I think they're close to being able to um, take advantage of their unique position and opportunities in the oil and gas industry and
Hmm.
in other industries as well.
Hmm. Fantastic, really, really fantastic. I think just the vision to do that. I think it was it a year before you Fields and Sobeys did the office in Houston, did the partnership
It was
there.
about 2 years
It's about
before.
it was two
Yeah,
years.
it was before COVID, so it
And
was
this is
around
Houston, Texas.
2018
This is
onwards.
Houston on the East Bank. This is Houston, Texas. So really, really, really expanding the law firm, and we've been truly impressed by that. Nigel, you've been one of the persons really and truly the face of the legal face of the Henry Boyce case. And all that entails. Are you surprised that even though there was a promise that no stone would be left unturned, it seems quite a few of them have been left unturned. Have you been surprised that we haven't gotten much headway out of that as we should have by now, 2 Christmases later?
Yeah, I want to first of all, take advantage of the opportunity to say to the Henrys and Gail Johnson and the people, the immediate family of the Henrys, that this is the second very painful Christmas that they have to go through since the very brutal murders of their sons. And of course, as you probably know, they are about four persons who have been wrongfully charged with the murder of Harris Singh, with an absence of evidence, and they're sitting in the prison. So their suffering has been multiplied
Mm-hmm.
several times over.
Mm-hmm.
After 2 years, of course, we don't believe the people who were charged were culpable or involved in the death of Joel and Isaiah. And we certainly hope that the absence of any attempt at forensic analysis of the evidence and any attempt to really, at a scientific level, identify the true culprits, that will change. It hasn't. It's been 2 years, and like many things in Ghana, I don't think many people are surprised by that, but we have to press on in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Quite interesting. Quite interesting. Again, our thoughts and our prayers are still with those families there. As you rightly said, one can only imagine how their anguish have been multiplied times over. And as I said earlier on, Kathy's had her own hands full at the parliamentary end. Well, coming off of a ministerial portfolio, I think getting back into business, Kathy, at that end, and then balancing that with being a member of parliament as well, and really, really making lots of strides on that front. Kathy, were you surprised? I find myself asking this question a lot the last 24 hours, whether someone was surprised. Were you surprised by the fact that we perhaps didn't have a robust parliament as was promised by the what I call the installed administration? Were you surprised by that? We've just had a smattering of sittings.
Yeah, yes. Sarah, it's surprised, but more than surprised, just very, very sad. When I think about Parliament and the way what Parliament has become, I am pained. Remember, Parliament is supposed to be almost a supreme expression of our democracy.
Mm-hmm.
Parliament is the place where we should go and, regardless of our differences, be able to speak to each other, to debate, to be robust, and to think about the country Guyana. And what has bothered me and pained me is, well, number one, we haven't had that number of sit-ins, which is sad. But most importantly, the fact that for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been in Parliament since 2011, Sharad, so I don't say this lightly, but this is the first time that I know that it's almost as if discussion is not being promoted in Parliament. So in the past, and I'm speaking from my experience, we would have motions that would be presented to the Parliament by any member of Parliament. And the most that would be changed in a motion is a word or two, a typographical error, whatever. We are now at the stage where motions are being deliberately assaulted, meaning that you would be bringing a motion with 5 points. And by the time the parliament and the speaker changes the motion, it's not even dealing with anything of substance.
Mm-hmm.
So you're
Mm-hmm.
reducing the ability for us as a people, as representatives of the people, to even discuss important issues. On the order paper, there's several motions that I consider absolutely important. We're talking about spending hundreds of millions of US dollars on a gas to shore project. Why up to now can't that motion be debated in the parliament? Because the parliament is the place for us to have this robust discussion. And the people of Guyana lose out because, as a citizen, I would like to hear what the PPP MPs and government have in mind regarding this gas to shore. And then I'd like to hear David Patterson, who did endless work, who did commissioned a series of studies, who has his own opinions and recommendations, and anybody else. And this is the kind of discussion that then helps to inform the general public. But again, we have motions that are not even being discussed. We have over 60 questions, important questions regarding the process of monies that were given out to people that were involved in agriculture and experienced losses. We have questions regarding the persons that did not collect the 19,000 education grant. We have questions regarding the process, the distribution process of persons that didn't get the other grant the other day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
parliament is the place where you say, well, how come we got 150 people that say they didn't get? The minister in charge, please explain. But we're not even allowed to ask those questions because they're not being answered. So we
Mm-hmm.
have more than 60 questions on notice papers that are still awaiting orders,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And so for me, why I say pained is that we are at the stage where we cannot even respectfully speak to each other. We cannot even respectfully agree to disagree. I consider Parliament today, and this is my own views, verbal abuse,
Mm-hmm.
because you
Mm-hmm.
go in there and you can't even speak properly. The last session, Tabitha Sarabo Hali was trying to make her point, and she was appealing to the speaker, saying, Mr. Speaker, I can't even hear myself speaking. And that was because of the raucous behavior of some members on the other side. And the speaker was saying to her, your red light is on, so you're the one that's speaking. In a case like that, why wouldn't a speaker say, folks on the other side, please contain yourself, lower your speech, let Mrs. Halley speak. It doesn't have to be the cuss down and cuss out. And so today, when you look at where our parliament has come from, in 2011 we had a women's caucus within that parliament that crossed both political lines. I was thinking about it about 5 or 6 years. It would be about 6 or 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I took a photograph of Gail Teixeira and Carrington dancing at a little after Parliament social drinks. That would never happen today. And today in the Parliament, I want Guyanese to listen. You listen to the discussion and you tell me how many times you hear the discussion being about Guyana and its people. It's always about APNU, AFC, and the PPP.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about Guyana and what we're doing to build and to expand
Yeah,
this beautiful country. So I am absolutely pained.
yeah.
Uh, it's been difficult for me, and I question. I am going through the process of questioning if it Parliament in Ghana in its form today actually makes sense.
Yeah, you know, on the front of the speaker, it's Christmas Eve. And the only thing I'll say is that it brings to mind a line in one of Martin Carter's poem, our late great national poet. It says, "A mouth is always muzzled by the food it eats to live." And I wouldn't say anything else on that front.
Yes.
But I want to draw Nigel into the conversation with something you said, Kathy, about David Patterson and oil and gas. This is something that I know Hughes Fields and Stobies is focusing on frontally as an organization. What are we missing in our administration of oil and gas locally? I'm reflecting in my mind as I asked the question in an editorial out of Starbucks News, in which they were saying that the government of the day seems to be more a partner with ExxonMobil as against what you call a regulator. It seems more to be in a partnership. It seems more a partner than a regulator. What are we missing, Nigel, from our administration as a government of oil and gas?
Sharon, I would, if you permit me, I think that we should perhaps approach that question, first of all, like in Alcoholics Anonymous, uh, accepting some of our failures or lack of capacity. And one of them I would say is, what have we managed as a country successfully on the economic front
Mm-hmm.
since independence?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there aren't very many examples of great successes of management of national institutions or economic ventures. Sugar has not been successfully managed. Bauxite clearly was not successfully managed. Gold, in terms of where the country has benefited as opposed to individuals, was not successfully managed. So as you go, Bryce, I think, has been moderately well managed. And the only product that I can think of right now that is world class is perhaps the DDL rum that is sold globally. So I think we need to start perhaps from acknowledging that we don't have a stellar history of managing the great blessings that we have received from just our natural resources. So countries that have virtually no natural resources have done infinitely better than us. We have not managed any of these, and we have not had the vision to actually decide how we are going to manage them so that they not only benefit this generation, but they're put on a platform in which they will benefit the country and its citizenry in the long term. So when we bear that in mind and we come to oil and gas, I think oil and gas is one of the premier industries in the world, and therefore the people who tend to operate in this industry can afford to buy the best talent globally. So if we acknowledge as Guyanese that we don't have a great history of managing anything, and we are dealing with an asset and a windfall which requires, I dare say, the best ability to manage the revenues, and those revenues have to be managed on a national basis, not on a
Yep.
party
Yep.
basis.
Yep.
So even though at a political level you may wish to reward your supporters or your financiers, this is a very serious asset globally, and you're coming up and you're engaging, even in partnerships, you're engaging with those who can afford to get the best and brightest advice that is available. So going forward, where we are in line for more revenues than we have ever remotely considered. I think yesterday the president met with the Bankers Association, and they're talking about basic financial instruments. So we don't even have available in Guyana anything close to moderate, let alone sophisticated financial instruments for our own people to benefit from
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because of outdated legislation. And we are going to now pretend to manage funds where we have absolutely no history of managing them properly. And I say this across the board for the political spectrum. So if we don't have the apparatus across the board that has been able to attract the level of talent to manage our resources for the country, whatever your political views, then when you have an asset that is as prized as oil, which globally has not escaped all the troubles and difficulties that accompany oil. If you look at a lot of the interventions and a lot of the incidents that have happened globally, have been in countries where there has been an abundance of oil. If you think of where Libya was, where it is today, you pick
Mm-hmm.
Iraq, you pick your state. We
Mm-hmm.
know that there are some inherent difficulties that we should, at least as a nation, be able to confront together. not as an individual political party, but together. And unfortunately, where oil and gas is concerned, there clearly, at least I have not seen any attempt at a national level to be able, first of all, to attract the talent to help us manage uh, the proceeds from this asset and manage the asset, which has a limited time, properly. We know there are obvious things that will have to happen. Building roads, Ghana has no infrastructure of any sort, so there's some obvious things that have to be done. But everything has to be done within a framework of development. And that framework of development is not a question of whether you make decisions that may seem politically attractive, but are detrimental to the long term effects of the country. We need to know exactly where we plan to go in the next 10 and the next 20 years. Our biggest deficit is education, what it is that we can agree on nationally about how we're going to approach education, particularly, and also the health and other services
Yep.
that
Yep.
that we need nationally. So I think we don't even, I think we're so far out of this game as a country because of of course, internal difficulties and challenges that when you ask a question about the management of oil, that this should be, we should be identifying national boards that can hire the best advice globally and not start attacking it, for example, at the basis of local content. Local content is at the bottom of what should be a national development strategy. That may be one of the components of it. But unfortunately, we tend in Ghana, perhaps because of our lack of elevation, our ability not to see beyond today, um, not to be in a position in which we get the global picture.
Yep. Yep.
Um, so I'm sorry to be this depressing on
No,
Christmas
no,
Eve, but
no. It is a
that's my humble
reality. It is
opinion.
reality because after Christmas, we have to deal with the reality of how do we get this country moving in a positive direction. And that is one of the things I want to ask both of you guys about. Folks, for those of you who are now joining us, we're talking with the one and only Nigel Hughes and Kathy Hughes. It's a Hughes Christmas Eve, and it's good to see so many of you tuned in, whether it's Resilient, Deborah, Bull Page, JG. I see, is it Charlie Ben, and again Romney Leander. I see Gaylord Evans. All you fantastic folks. Thanks for joining the podcast Below the Belt, and we're privileged to have these very special guests with us this evening. Are we missing big opportunities? You know, it is the former mayor of Chicago who was the chief of staff for Obama. Rahm Emanuel, I think his name is, who said, "You never let a crisis go to waste." Are we missing big opportunities even with the pandemic? Knowing, for instance, Elon Musk, that billionaire in the US, he made a lot of money during the pandemic, selling people into space and all of that, doing bold things, even during a pandemic. Are we missing tremendous opportunities, even in the circumstances that we had locally? I thought we would have used the opportunity to do some big things. One, during the pandemic, and two, with this huge windfall. Or is it that we have what they call the Dutch disease settling in? We're having a lot of money, but really and truly poor, poor, poor conditions are abounding. What do you guys think? Kathy and then Nigel.
Well, I definitely think we are missing the opportunities in terms of the provision of education. And this is where, Sharad, I have a special pet peeve about that. I have a problem with the fact that as a country, we continue with this useless tit for tat approach.
Yeah, true.
So, one government, just because another government did it, we ain't gonna do it anymore. If it was a project that construction project that had a contractor that went through a proper bidding process, but we gotta see how we gonna stop it and leave it stalled because we want to come up with a new program, a new structure to put in a new contractor.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, in education, this is absolutely critical and unacceptable. And it's because we're talking about the next generation of young people and their ability to read and write and to do exams and to be able to function and to become the kinds of citizens, the productive citizens that we need them to be, especially against the backdrop that given this oil and gas industry, We need to be developing and training and encouraging a higher level of educational capacity for our citizens. And by that I mean that if before we had X number of children that went on to a technical school, went went as far as high school. Nowadays, we need to make sure that they are going to technical schools. We need to make sure that they're going to university. We need to make sure that they are going on to postgraduate. We need to have a system whereby we know that if we got all the Trinidadians and all the Americans running our oil and gas industry now, in 10 years' time, who are the people that
Yeah.
we're going to need?
Yeah.
Will
Yeah.
we need 400 or just 100 petroleum engineers? Are we taking monies now to start training those 100 petroleum engineers?
Yeah.
Are we sending those messages to schools? Now, let me tell you what our reality is. The reality is, and I want to go back to my position as former public telecommunications minister. We went out of our way to put internet into many schools, many ministries, many hinterland locations,
Yep.
and
Many communities. Yep.
almost was many communities with the ICT hubs. Now, why would you totally not be focusing and expanding that structure, Sharon, at a time when, because of COVID, we have to do things differently. When COVID started, I said, thank you, Lord, that we had started to put this internet in so many places because you had a platform that you could build on. You had in communities locations where the communities could have decided themselves, how do we work out that these 70 children that live in this particular area are going to come and use a free Wi-Fi signal to do their online learning? The community could have organized. Whether you have 10 children at a time, they come at a certain day, or however you do it. At least you would have had something like in place. What we have nowadays is that there are thousands of Guyanese children that do not have access to the internet. The parents, the guardian, mommy and daddy cannot afford an internet package for them. So when we talk about online learning, you're talking about online learning amongst the haves. The people, the families that have a device, that have internet at home, and a quiet little space in a room in the house where this child could sit down for 8 hours or 5 hours and do the schoolwork uninterrupted.
Yeah. Yeah.
That reality does not exist for the majority of children, especially in some of our poor and rural areas, even in the South Georgetown area. And the question is, what has been done in nearly 2 years to assist them? I have not seen this government go into giving a tablet, laptop to all these children, which is easy to do. Take some of the money or the billions that you are spending, that you're giving this body a one off 1 week's money, another 2 weeks 7% or whatever. I'm not saying that it's not nice to do that, but since you are in a position to do that, you find the money and make sure every single child, regardless of the financial status of their guardians or parents, have a device, and you give them a portable internet device. Technology is such that we could give each of them a little MiFi, and they know that between 8 to a certain time, they will get a free Wi-Fi signal that comes off of our e-government network.
Yeah. I think we. I
So
think we saw Antigua, and I think Barbados doing something similar like that.
and St. Lucia's done it.
Yeah.
Many countries have done it. So, it is sad because, like I said, I have found, I am working right now in the Working Russ area, Niger, and I have a project where we are financing 4 teachers, and they are teaching 34 children under
Fantastic.
gender
Fantastic.
distinction.
Congrats for
And,
that.
for me, it was like, well, for us, I should say, it was like, we can't fix everything, but these are kids that we know. that are in the vicinity of Nigel's office in Hatfield Street. What can we do to help? And it was amazing because we found that in the year and a half, we started in August, they had done absolutely nothing. They were running wild, playing on the street, excited that the August holidays had gone on for literally a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I sat down and I have, I'm mentoring about 4 or 5 7-year olds that cannot read or write.
Wow.
Cannot read or write.
Wow.
So, we have not done enough. We have not done enough.
Wow. Wow. Nigel?
I, I, I'm
Wow.
not sure if I could remember what the question
Congrats
was
with that
really.
program. If we've missed opportunities to do big things in the pandemic, this huge windfall of cash coming in, meaningful policies and programs that affect those same folks you guys are helping there in the working, I think that's working rust.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Sharon, I would only say that, let's just look at the data. My wife is in the political arena, so I do hear what she says. But if you think about it, we're what, three quarter million people sitting down on 214,000 square kilometers or 83,000 square miles, no shortage of natural resources.
None.
Um, no shortage. As a matter of fact, I
Yeah.
dare say,
Yeah.
an abundance of natural resources. And we have, after 50 years, not been able to take one single resource and use it to our benefit to the extent that has become integrated, value added, and it's a world class product. Um, 2 days ago, before I left, I went to Kama, and I just see the logs just pouring out of the interior, and they're literally being brought by these trucks to a port where they get put on a boat and
Mhm.
they get exported, and of course, the prices multiply by several hundreds by the time they leave here. If after 50 years, all we can do with the logs coming out of our rainforest is cut them down with a chainsaw, put them on a trailer, and carry it and put it on a boat, then I think that answers your question about if we have lost missed opportunities. Um, if after 50 years, various political managers being elected to office, um, we cannot educate a school population of what, I don't know, 200,000 people, if that many, the level where in excess of 50% of them go on to tertiary level education. And that comments on that is a comment on whether we have missed opportunities. Many years ago, when I was in university in the UK, I'm talking 1980s, the Singapore, Malaysian, and Eastern countries, several of their governments spent money sending their students to the best Western and Eastern universities. 90% of those persons went back home voluntarily
Mhm.
because they understood not only that they had a future in their home, but they would be able to live well at the same time as contributing to the development of their country. China today, even though it's not in what we would call the traditional democratic mode, spent billions of their dollars over the last 40 years after Deng came in sending their children, their young people, to the best universities in the United States, in the Western world, and also in the Eastern world, so that when they came back home, end up and you see what they have. They have Huawei. They now have what the second most powerful military globally. They are beginning to rival. I don't think they're anywhere close yet, but they're beginning to rival the Americans in the extra
The
spatial
Americans very worried
territory.
about
Yeah.
that. They're very, very worried.
Well, I think one thing you do have to say: the American budget for their military defense exceeds the rest of the world combined at least twice or thrice. So
Yeah.
I don't think we have begun to see anything remotely close to the capacity of the American military. I think politically, America perhaps has faced some challenges recently, but militarily, I don't think there's anything close, including China to that. In that, but what I'm saying is the the foresight of those nations to have sent their people overseas to get the best possible training and create an environment in their own country that when they come back, they have their standard of living is good, their prospects for growth and development are good, and that they have a place and they can contribute. You touched on an excellent point in your question to Kathy. We don't ask our young people, tell me what you think is the most transformational idea that you can come up with in a particular place. So whether it's science and technology, whether it's electronics, you know, we still ask them some very basic questions. What do you think can happen with Ghana? We're beyond this. With the resources we have, we should have been ahead of several, I dare say, several of the countries that you would call mid-level countries,
Hmm.
simply because we don't have a large population to deal with. We have an abundance of resources that just basically require management. If we can get electricity right after 50 years to give us competitive rates so that we can build an
Mm.
industry or build several industries, it's a sad commentary, not on one political party, the other is a sad commentary in all of us, each and every one of us as a Guyanese, because at some stage, each and every one of us went to vote. And
Yeah.
if we cannot
Yeah.
manage something as basic as the cost of electricity, Kathy was just talking about technology.
I
If
feel
we
like you're
can't
boxing
even
me there.
deliver, no,
I feel like you're
no,
boxing me. No,
serious.
no, it kind of
No.
shakes
No,
you
no.
when you hear. I
Let me
mean,
put it this way.
you experience it when you hear somebody like you say it. If we can't, manage stable power after 50 years, where we there?
And right. So I think, and unfortunately, if you do something and it doesn't work, especially if you're running your own business or you're running your own home, you are unlikely to go back and do the same thing again without examining what it is that went wrong when you did it the first time.
Hmm.
Now, imagine if Mexico City has 20 or 21 million people. Imagine if we had 21 people to look after
Yeah,
in this country.
and and
The
and
indigenous,
Mr. Hughes, not to cut in, but 21 to about 25 million people in Mexico City, and it's a city, so it's run by a council with about 30 people. We got a judiciary, we got an army, we got parliament, we got NDCs with about, as you said, about 750,000 persons, and we getting it right. Sorry to intrude, but I just wanted to
I mean, come
stick
on.
that in there.
No. But so when you ask questions that are as global as that about Guyana, we have to start off by saying, um, what are we doing with the data rather than what are we doing with the rhetoric? And we're not there. We just haven't gotten it. Uh, I'm sorry. I'm not hopeful at this stage that the
Yeah,
present approach of
yeah,
us collectively as a people
yeah.
is likely to yield any different results to that of the past 50 years.
Yeah, and I'm happy you talked about data because I'm going to circle back to something that Kathy said early on when we talked about Parliament. As my colleague Amanda Walton this year often says, she has a refrain. It has occurred to me. It has occurred to me. I was thinking about how do we measure Parliament um, in its efficiency and how have we been doing that? Is it the amount of sit-ins we had? Is it the bills we produce? Is the quality of the debate that happens? And I would hazard to think that a tool has already been invented somewhere in the world which we can measure parliamentary efficiency and whether you have a robust parliament and what have you. But as I was there in the last sitting, Kathy and Nigel, I asked the hardworking people at Parliament if they can pull for me the dates and how many days Parliament sat in the last 12 months. And this is taking into the fact that we had 2 months of what you call a recess, Cathy, right? Parliament
Yep.
Parliament met for about 38 days in 10 months.
Mm.
In
You
10
guys
months.
actually work for a month?
And then we can go and we look at now the amount of legislation that were produced. If we have 40, 20 was things we brought over from the previous administration that were already pending and so forth. And so we would have spent, I think, close to about a lot of $1 billion in the National Assembly just for the administration of it. and we sat for just under 40 days in 10 months. So I just want to say that as you were talking about data, I just wanted to insert that into the conversation too.
Sharon, if I could respond to that, you see, the issue also is the level of the debate. And the issue is the opportunity that Guyanese have to be encouraged to be part of the discussion. And by that, I mean that let's take, for example, this bill that is coming up, the Natural Resources Bill,
Uh-huh.
where there was a bill before that a law that had been passed that had extensive consultation and also research, consultants, etc. Now, you have a product that says there's a committee of 20 or 22 people. I forget which one it is. And those persons that represent civil societies, teachers, doctors, parliamentarians, people in tourism, people, a good cross section of Guyana make up these 22 people
Mhm.
that have to decide how you're going to spend this oil money. And you are now going to take that 10, 20, 20, 22 person committee down to 3 persons: the president, the minister of finance, and I forget who the other person is, and a board of 9 people that those 3 people select, right? And what you're going to do is that you're going to go into a parliament and you're going to say, well, because we got the majority, let me just perform.
A
Let me
majority
just
of
perform
one, a
a
one seat,
majority of one.
a one seat
So
majority. Yeah.
what we can
Isn't
do
it?
is that
Isn't
we,
it a two-seat majority?
Yeah, two, and then you have Schumann. Yeah, correct, Nigel.
yeah. So then what we do is that we go into the parliament and we can have a performance today. It can be a show at Culture Center.
Yeah,
It's a Culture Center show, but it's not a Culture Center. It's at the Arthur Chung Convention Center. And who gonna cuss up and who do what and what, and we
yeah,
gonna pass it.
yeah.
You have not heard from civil society in Guyana. For start, how do we make people comfortable enough to think that they can be part of a active and vibrant civil society? The high school organizations, the churches, the surveyors, the architects, all the different groups, the doctors. Everybody must feel that this is important enough, and I can say our association, our group, can come up with a position. And we're supposed to be able to have this discussion not only in the parliament, but it should actually start on our in our in on the radio, on television, discussion programs where all these different groups of people, consultations in communities, where people are able to sit down and talk and come up with what their thoughts are, regardless of fear.
Yeah. Yep.
We don't get
Yep.
any of that.
Meaningful discussion.
And a lot of people, the first thing they will say is, well, if I go and protest because the teachers didn't get money, there's a police officer, and I've seen this, walking down with a camera on his phone on, recording you. And what he's saying to those um, teachers is that, you shouldn't be here. You may have a legitimate problem, and you're demonstrating a legitimate right under freedom of the press, as freedom of association, freedom of speech, to say, I'm not happy. But what you're saying to them is, I recording you, and this data is going to somebody, and that somebody coming to tell you, you better watch it, you ain't gonna have a
Mm.
job, and you ain't gonna be able to feed your children.
Yeah.
So there's a national conversation on all these key issues that totally does not happen at all. Does not happen at all. And I'm at the positions where I feel now we don't need to hear from the politicians. It's the same usual people talking, 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 talking. The solution to the problems we have has to come from all those community organizations and all those different civil society groups that need to reemerge a far more fairer and independent private sector commission, the bar association, all these different
Yeah.
organs that in other countries play a meaningful role and contribute to national discussion.
And you know
So
what?
we're not wasting time pulling each other down, but we're planning how we're moving forward.
I think there's a smattering. I'm remembering this word of this candidate during the 2020 general regional elections. There's a smattering of those voices now, and thankfully so. Kathy Nigel, I saw Starbuck News again. I keep referring to Starbuck News because it's one of those quote unquote independent media houses out there, and they often
That's
say,
your assessment?
well, quote unquote. You can argue that from a legal standpoint,
No, I
uh,
no, no,
quote
I'm
unquote.
not arguing a thing.
But I made the reference to the point that when we say something, it comes across as APNU AFC. If they print something from this discussion, you will hear on the APNU AFC podcast. Nigel
Yeah,
Hughes and Cathy Hughes said X. They would never say Sherry Duncan, a podcast host, talking to APNU AFC. They
yeah,
always give that label. So this
yeah,
is quote unquote independent cyber news, quote unquote, was talking about the same issue of the National Resource Fund, and they said um, uh, that they thought that the composition of that committee, of that group for the National Resource Funds to administrate that body, was innovative and it was very inclusive and offered some kind of a model for what the future of inclusivity and managing resource and managing resources rather from that inclusive level, what it ought to look like. And here is the government of the day has gone totally against that whole model, and again for their own purposes. I just wanted to stick that into Kathy.
yeah, yeah.
Yep,
You
that.
know,
Save and accept,
Uh,
uh, Sharon. I think um, the, I think ideas and suggestions should stand on their own, irrespective of who says them. The fact that people have agendas where they categorize, for example, like you said, Sherrod Duncan, MPAFC said whatever, or Kathy Hughes, AFC, whatever said. I don't think you should get distracted by that because people have agendas and people in media who own media houses have agendas. So don't get distracted by that. Really, what you want is the idea to get as wide a broadcast as possible. And also, one of the big challenges in Guyana is that people have to understand it. So even if you have a political view or preference, you should be able to pick. If I'm a rabid PPP supporter and I hear Sherrod Duncan, who's a FCA PNU member, say that we should look at establishing such a body for these reasons. Yes, I know he comes from that. Yes, whichever media host, Stabrook, whatever, all of them have agendas. Said that, but when I look at what he said, does it make sense? And can I, the individual, look at what he said and examine what he said and then arrive at my own position? So I understand that after a while, this constant attack by so-called media houses that describe you by your political affiliation or other things, politics again is ethnicity. Um, Constantly doing that, but they have an agenda for that. But I think what has to happen is that, of course, whatever idea you have needs to be broadcast in the widest possible forum, and so that people can examine it. But don't get too upset with them accusing you of being AP and you AFC. They're just highlighting what is there in their minds.
Thank you for that, senior counsel. That being said,
No, I'm not that. I'm a senior citizen, not senior counsel.
the senior counsel to us. That being said, there was an issue recently, and I know Nigel, even with saying that, you are that kind of person who doesn't like to focus on personality, and so this isn't coming from that place at all. There was what was described as an attack on the judiciary, an attack on women in the judiciary recently by Nigel Darmlad, a minister within the current regime. With the kind of with the judgment that was recently handed down in the petition 99 case, and I wanted to ask both of you, Kathy and Nigel, from two different standpoints perhaps. Nigel, where do we cross the line between the executive being able to criticize the judiciary is in a minister and the Court of Appeal, and um, where does just ordinary critique comes into bear? And Cathy, from the other standpoint, where do you cross the line of being sexist as against challenging a female public figure? Because we often hear the charge, oh, Shara don't like women, oh, this body don't like women, because you have challenged some argument on the other side. Where is that line drawn there in the same and both instances?
If I could perhaps jump in there, I think, Chad, the danger with the statement that was made by the minister is this. But let me say from the start, every decision of the court, you can criticize it, you can analyze it, and be critical of it. You set out the basis upon which you do that. We live in a society that is divided deeply along political stroke ethnic lines. We have a hierarchy of courts, and as far as I'm aware, the judges are appointed. Nobody has said that a particular political party appoints a particular set of judges. Have a decision coming out of the Court of Appeal in which a minister is clearly dissatisfied with it and doesn't limit his dissatisfaction to the discussion with his friends and his family in the private quarters. He takes the time to go on to social media and write very scathingly that this decision was biased, and biased meaning politically biased, which in Guyana means a certain particular type of bias. And he went on to say that these are the same judges who before made a decision in the election case dealing with the seats and what constituted half in his interpretation. Here's the danger with this. I have no difficulty with if he wants to criticize that decision. But in a divided society, we are a minister who represents the executive, and you notice that nobody, His Excellency the President, neither the Prime Minister or the Attorney General, not one of them, as far as I'm aware, I might have missed it, not one of them has condemned the sentiment that was expressed by the minister. So in this divided society in which we live, once he says that, every single citizen is going to be empowered to say, if Justice Singh gave a decision against me and I didn't like it, I could go and say he biased.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you know what that means in Guyana.
Yeah.
So that starts to rapidly erode any sense of respect for the judgments, the judiciary, because the minister said, and in this case, the ethnicity of the two judges in the political divide is obvious. It's not something you got to go and look for. So if every citizen takes the lead from this minister and feels that it is okay to accuse every single decision made by anybody, whether magistrate, judge, court of appeal judge, or CCJ judge, on the basis that you think they are biased, and what is the next step in a politically divided society? In effect, what he is saying is that he would have preferred judges who were not, in his mind, politically biased. And you know what that means? That means people are going to say, it is okay to have judges. I only want a judge that look like me. And that is a crazy place to be in a multiracial society.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, the withdrawing of the comment was not in any way solve the damage that has been done by that comment, because you are going to get some pretty radical reactions from people who are going to feel they could go to court and say to the judge, I don't want you judging my case because as far as I am concerned, you're politically biased based on how you look.
Mm-hmm.
And once a country that is in the precarious position that Guyana is in is encouraged to adopt that position by a statement from a minister, we are heading into exceedingly choppy and dangerous waters because the disrespect for the rule of law will come, the lack of confidence in the judicial system will come, and once that starts to happen, we don't really have a rule of law in a society in which, people feel they can resort to the judiciary. Because even if you get a decision which you don't like and you don't necessarily want to say that you don't like it, you are going to harbor in the back of your mind the view that the decision that was handed down by a judge that doesn't look like you came because of their political bias.
Mm-hmm.
And we are
Yeah.
in a really difficult stage as a result of a minister making that statement. No condemnation of it coming from the president, no condemnation of the sentiment coming from the attorney general. And so I didn't even think, for me personally, the use of the word defrocked, I think in common parlance, people assume that that was an attack on the sex. Defrocked is really a verb that relates to the loss of office, particularly clerical and clergy and other types of offices. So I didn't necessarily take it as a sexist comment, but I think people are entitled to do that. But what I think it is set a horrendously dangerous path. And in conclusion, I will say that whoever is responsible for the management of the affairs of the state, elected or otherwise, once you are in government, your primary responsibility is not to bring the different first people, different groups, the different communities into collision with each other. Because once you encourage or you facilitate, may not even encourage, once you facilitate different groups to come into collision with each other based on their differences, this is almost as if you're inciting war. And unfortunately, in Guyana, like I said, about 50 years of inability to progress is testament to that. So that would be all I would like to say at this stage on that.
Great. Thanks so much, Nigel, for that intervention here. Kathy, what are your thoughts on the other aspect of it? What is the
I
line?
I t- I tend to agree with Nigel, and I don't necessarily think that it is an attack um, on the positions because they're held by women.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the principle is what Nigel explained so well, that I don't like the decision, so I'm going to attack
Mm-hmm.
the perpetrator. So I think on this occasion, it's not because of the sex of the office holders, but more on the decision. And I want to mention that it goes to the heart of the concept of rule of law, and it goes to the invitation, possible invitation for anarchy, arcan, sorry, for confusion.
Anarchy.
Anarchy, yeah, I can't even remember the words for confusion and anarchy. The reality is that you have a system where people have to be confident in that system. And so you don't like a judgment, you can cuss the person, you suggest they need to be removed, you put somebody else in. You don't like their decision. I mean, where does this begin and end?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the focus should more be, and we're kind of lucky, we've had a very, very difficult time in Ghana the last year and a half. And I know people have complained, including the current administration, that why are we always going to the courts? But to me, that's the beauty. That's the one hope we have, that we can, as a people, instead of bearing arms and fighting it out some street corner, we can go to the courts, and we can trust the courts to analyze the situation as carefully and to bring their judgment. And we've had judgments that on both sides of the political fence, some that we've been happy with and some we've not been happy with. And that's the way it should be. I think the bigger concern is the message that you send, the subliminal message that you say,
Mm-hmm.
well, if we don't like your decision, we can say that you shouldn't even be in this position.
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
effect can that have on the judiciary? and their dispensation of justice.
Yep. Indeed,
You know?
indeed, indeed, indeed. Kathy and Nigel, it's been a privilege having both of you guys. You've joined us for lunch, for our podcast during lunch, and we love all the ideas and thoughts you've shared with us. That being said, what do you guys do for lunch? As we wrap up our discussion today, a Hughes Christmas Eve.
Well, I'll tell you a secret. Just before we came on, we had
Uh-huh.
tennis roll and cheese.
Oh wow.
So,
You guys are
we're real
overseas in this sunny place. You
No,
aren't
no,
having you,
we're real
you take a little bit of
We're
home with
real
you.
Guyanese. We got with tennis roll and cheese. So
Hmm.
breakfast was not too long
I
ago. So
mean
I
things
have
tight home here, but things can't so tight for the use. Things are so tight, Nigel. Tell me. You spend everything, bringing this office up to scratch.
yes. So I didn't even know
Tennis
what's for
shoulder
lunch.
cheese, tennis shoulder cheese. And what makes the use Christmas table? What do you guys do for your Christmas lunch and that kind of stuff? You guys are big into, baking all the fancy stuff and so forth, or maybe it's egg and
Yeah.
bread.
Well, let me tell you. Let me
Yeah.
tell you. Going back years, when we grew up, when we were growing up, having turkey
Hmm.
was the one time at Christmas you would have turkey.
Yep. Yep.
So for me, I like to be able to taste some turkey because, and I think my siblings agree too. So we go in and look. We don't have it yet, but we go in and look for turkey breast somewhere.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
won't be buying a big, huge turkey,
Hmm.
but we will have turkey breast and have some nice baked turkey. Um, my sister is talking about doing cook up, and I was saying to her, "Okay, you're doing cook up on Christmas Day, but we ain't got to put all the meat in the cook up. Can we do more like a peas and rice?"
Minimalist cook up.
She thought,
Minimalist.
"Ah,
Minimalist
yes,
cook up. Uh-huh.
exactly," but she's still talking about her. She wanted to cook up with pigtail and
But she won't have to meet in it.
but we can do some. We can do some sweet potato also.
Ah.
We're gonna do some kind of dessert. We have our cake already.
Nigel
We will do a.
does any cooking?
We will.
Is he any good?
Sorry.
Nigel does any cooking? Is he any good?
You know,
If this law thing don't work out,
Sharon,
if this law thing don't work out,
Sharon, Sharon,
talk to
Sharon.
me, sir.
I, I will merely say to you that this is a season of goodwill for all men. I will say, I will not take any bait from you, and therefore I won't be prompted into responding to questions
You
in
will not
areas which I
dignify
clearly have
that with the
no
response.
skills.
All right, all right, and that's fine. Kathy?
So 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 Sharon,
Uh,
Nigel's got to handle the drinks,
okay, good.
right?
He is
And
useful for something.
yes, yes, he's got to handle the
Yeah,
drinks,
take
and I
off the
have to
bottle
tell
corks
you,
and so on.
he he is very good at setting the table.
Uh-huh.
He'll set the table and bring out some fancy napkins.
Uh-huh.
The
You got it
only
covered.
problem is
She's
that
she's no,
exa-
she's clearly saying that my status in the home is that of a butler, and
yes.
I should be happy
Let me tell you.
being a butler.
Let me tell you.
And no,
Yes.
no,
This going to the CCG. I see that. Talk to us,
Let me
guys.
tell you. Let me tell you the one problem with Nigel setting the table.
Uh-huh.
The one time of the year Nigel got to remember. You know how them English people used to do it, right? So you got a water glass, you got a wine glass for a little wine
Oh
because he ain't
boy.
going to use, and then all I know is when is washing up time.
Uh,
I When is washing up time is way too many glasses. So you have to be diplomatic about this. So when he's setting the fancy table and the table looks fabulous,
uh-huh.
fabulous, you have to say, "Sweetheart, are you sure you need to put all those glasses?" Because the women fast forward to washing up and clearing up, right? So
I,
yeah, that's
the temptation to respond to national radio to the fact that
Go right
my
ahead, sir.
dear wife does not the temptation to respond on national radio to my fact that my wife,
International, sir.
who's
I beg your
very,
pardon.
oh, sorry, international. My wife, who, because of her condition, cannot drink wine and therefore assumes that the color is indicative of every potential difference in the wine, would probably lead to that lack of appreciation that you can't possibly serve red wine in white wine glasses.
Oh.
But I understand that, and that's particularly why and that is why she has a dishwasher. But
Oh,
I'm
fine.
happy with my status as butler,
So,
and I will discharge
so
that.
you've now added that to I think you said you carry the purse too.
No, no, my butler's gown just really has a very small saying that says nobody knows the trouble I've seen.
Folks, I wish we had another hour to delve into these deep issues of the Hughes household. We need a whole sitcom for this, keeping up with the Hughes. Guys, it's been
Jared, it's been a pleasure speaking with you.
yes, I know, I know.
Really, really.
Just before more is said, thank you guys so much for spending this time with us. It's been a
And
real
have a great.
pleasure. It's been a real pleasure, guys.
And to your listeners, I wish them an
Nigel,
extraordinarily safe.
the very last thing I wanted to ask, I know you guys are very elegantly simplistic people. How do you say Merry Christmas to your staff? It has occurred to me as a man, so to say. And Kathy, you have a staff too. How do you guys say Merry Christmas to your staff? Some of them might be listening now too. If I
Well,
put it in the
let me
spot.
But
Nigel,
Finally.
Nigel likes to be Santa Claus.
Uh-huh.
And so we do try to give a gift to all of our staff. It's not it's the I always like to say it's the thought that counts.
Mhm.
So some of them are simple gifts, but we do take the time to get a little gift and to sit down and have a little chat. Nigel delivers personally to all his staff. My staff is much smaller, and I do take the time to deliver it myself and to say, I appreciate you. And this year, it's been a challenging year. It's been a very difficult
Yes,
year.
yes,
But
yes, it has.
together, we've had to cut some corners, but we're working for next year.
Yep. Yep.
And in closing off, I would just want to say to everyone that's listening, give thanks. Give thanks for what we have. It could always be so much worse. And I do want to remind people to be very, very safe.
Hmm.
That's the priority, safety. And Sherrod, as usual, it's just wonderful. It's been wonderful chatting.
Thanks for being here, Kathy. Nigel, you have the last word.
oh, on the bonus thing, my staff tease me every year, and they say that when they don't get it, they call it tonus. I don't know why so. But we're grateful for the year that we've had. But the thing is, their bonuses tend to come after Christmas, not before.
Mhm.
So we try to do the salaries before and do the bonuses after when we've got all the financial for the year. But I want to publicly express my gratitude to them for the year. We have grown, perhaps a little faster than we should, and so there's some growing pains. But
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
has been a good time. It has been a good year. God has blessed us to come this far. We look forward to the new year with all the challenges it may bring. What I will say is, all of us citizens of Ghana is going to see better days irrespective of what happens. But unfortunately, if we don't take this gift that we have got from, whether you call it Allah, God, Shiva, whoever, and manage it properly, it will be taken away from us, and taken away from us in ways that we may not necessarily see or observe. So I hope that next year, all of us collectively um, open our eyes, see what the opportunities are available that are available to us collectively as a country, individually, and take advantage of them and plan for days that may not be as promising or as prosperous as those that we seem to be about to enjoy. So that would be my my caution and my wish, and I hope that season of goodwill, that we engage differently and more constructively in the new year.
Fantastic. Nigel Hughes, attorney at law, Kathy Hughes, communications specialist and member of parliament. Thanks to both of you for spending this awesome time with us today. We couldn't ask for more for Christmas. Thanks to both of you.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Sure. I assume you're sending the Christmas food at some stage, right?
Indeed, indeed. Touche,
Yeah, because
touche.
yeah, because he had lunch right. He was yesterday. Like lunch coming in for a while.
I deserve the
I'm happy that
touche.
I'm happy that my wife has acknowledged publicly that I have not had lunch, so that when y'all hear that we fighting for half, you will know that I didn't get my lunch at Christmas Eve.
Good, good,
Have a
good.
great Christmas.
Thank you, guys. Merry Christmas to you.
Okay.
Merry
You too.
Christmas,
Thanks.
Sharon. Bye.
Fantastic.
Bye-bye.
Guys, Mr. and Mrs. Hughes, attorney at law Nigel Hughes and his wife, our friend and colleague both, Catherine Hughes, the communication specialist and member of parliament. And thanks to all of you for being on our podcast today. And the theme was a Hughes Christmas. Thanks to each and every one of you. Cecile Ogle, we see you there. Laverne Lincott, we see you there. Lincott. And we see also Siobhan McDonald. We see Auntie Sandra Hanover's on the live. June Gilbert, we see you as well. We see all of you guys. Ensure that you share the live stream. Ensure that you smash that emoji button, guys. It's our privilege coming to you day after day, night after night. Here, folks, we're here for you. Happy Christmas Eve. And happy Christmas. We should have a special program tomorrow morning around 10. That's our Christmas program. And those of you guys who are busy with your family, even if you're busy with your family, take time to tune in. We might have a call-in segment so you guys can call and wish your relatives and so on a Merry Christmas and so forth. We're going to be on around 10 a.m. tomorrow. And guys, we're going to be back this evening in the ring at 8 o'clock. We there. Tasha Silat, we see you. Claire, Alexis Chomley, Richmond, Joshua Cummins, we see you too. Marlon Comini, Van Veen, we see you too. Penelope Hudson, we see you too. JG, Annette Nichols, Joshua Cummins, all you fantastic, beautiful folks. We are so privileged you joined us. And thanks to Nigel Hughes and Kathy Hughes for joining us today. Happy Christmas, guys. Happy Christmas wherever you are. Take some time out, as our guest said, to be thankful. To be thankful. We got life, and because we got that, we got so much to be thankful for. Thanks to each and every one of you guys. Share the live stream before you go. And also smash that emoji button. Come on board and partner with us, guys. Help us to do even more programs like this. We have so much more in store for you guys for 2022. We tell you guys it's pace and power. We got platforms available where you guys can contribute. You know, we got the PayPal, let's start it up. We got the Cash App, and our Cash App handle is the dollar sign or the dollar symbol in the ring 592 at Cash App. We're the dollar sign in the ring 592. The dollar sign in the ring 592. At PayPal, we're in the ring 592 at gmail.com. Again, that's in the ring 592 at gmail.com. And then we're also available at the GT&T MMG system. Our number there is 627-6963, 627-6963. That's our MMG number. And you guys can also get us via MoneyGram, via Western Union as well, guys. We're available there. We ain't got a problem with them. They ain't got a problem with me. Happy Christmas to all the folks down at MoneyGram and Western Union around the world, folks. Thanks for joining us. You guys need any guidance on those platforms, you can get us at that MMG number as well via WhatsApp. WhatsApp 627-6963. Thanks for joining us, guys. Stay safe. Stay safe, and we're going to see you guys back this evening. Thanks for joining us. Stay safe. Below the belt. Who vex lose? Who vex vex? Who vex lose? That's what we said. Y'all stay safe. Stay safe.